Welcome to our work session. Who wants to start it off?
Jeff Culvers.
I think the biggest reason we wanted to get together was just to make sure the planning board and the county commissioners kind of think the same way, because we like to agree on a lot of things instead of overriding. If you guys come up with a decision, we would much rather just basically rubber stamp it because it fits everything that we're thinking also. So I think it's the reason this came up was there's some things on the comprehensive plan that we don't think that you guys are on the same page as the county commission. So we wanted to kind of work through some of those issues. I don't know who wants to start talking about this.
Well, I think a lot of this work session was done because of the April 13th meeting from some of the comments made by the Planning Commission on how the comprehensive plan was developed and the meetings.
And one of the
That's
issues
what I want
was,
to go over.
And one of the issues was it was said that the county didn't spend very much time and effort coming up with the
Right,
comprehensive
and we only
plan.
wanted 5 people to show up, and that's what we got.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so what you see up on the screen is
All the
18
meetings we
months
held.
worth of meetings and news outlets and everything that we went through, public hearings, public meetings at schools, libraries, and
There's two things. Not to cut you off, this is good, right? And we got this after the fact. Because several of us didn't get this, didn't get any of this. And I was one of them. And I'm sorry that I offended some people in here because that's supposed to be a private conversation between me and a lawyer. Now I know film runs, cameras run, mics are hot all the time, so there is no private conversations before, during, or after our meeting. That said, I appreciate this. And it wasn't directed derogatory to any one of you. My point is that I became a landowner during this time. And at no time was this ever covered or explained to me. Neither by mail. Now, we'll do mail-outs. We'll do all kinds of mail-outs to individuals. But this is the way we went to it versus mail-outs. And that was my point. That was my only point. Mail-outs we get. Newspapers, Facebooks, and setting up stands at fairs doesn't get to everybody. Right? That was
and
my only
I
point.
wanted mail-outs, but the company said that you're going to get the same results through social media and the internet and newspaper.
And I can tell you, Commissioner, that you're absolutely right in that when we have meetings here, you don't get the whole town here. You're right. But what I can tell you is that's still not everybody. And if we look at what shows up to meetings or what comes to protest or give their remarks or whatever, it's still not the whole. It's still not the whole town. It's still not the whole feelings, and I get that. But there's two things. One, there's this and how it was publicized, and then two gets after what you're addressing, Commissioner, is how are we, as planning and zoning, going to continue driving and supporting that future land use map based on the room fills up every week with families that are affected by 2.5 acre to 1 acre neighborhoods coming in all around them. The perception is that rural Leavenworth is turning into neighborhoods. And it comes with growth. You all have heard me say that. Growth is inevitable. Growth is coming. The Royal Rodeo is coming to Legends. Buc-ee's coming to Legends. I mean, everything's coming to Legends, right? I mean, I would love it if Royals came to Legends, because then I wouldn't drive so far. Right? But with growth comes growth. And we want to be on the same sheet and page with you all. We do. So there's two things to that. One, that's water under the bridge. Seriously, it's water under the bridge. It's done. I said my piece as a landowner. It was supposed to be private. I've apologized to as many as I can. I'm sorry. But the second thing is where do we go from here? And I think that's what we ought to focus on.
So can I ask you a question? And we had this come up at our county commission meeting a couple of weeks ago. In Harvey County, my family lives in Harvey County, down by Newton. They have 20 acres zoning, and then closer up to the cities, it's less. In Leavenworth County, we have 2.5 acre and we have 5 acre. The difference between 2.5 and 5 is not really the difference between rural or not rural. The difference is not that significant to actually make the case. Like some people make the case that means it's rural, and this doesn't mean it's rural. It's 5 acres or it's 2.5 acres. That's the way the county's been zoned for many years. So making the argument that is, I mean, people make that far more significant than in reality it is.
I think the neighbors that you're seeing that come to our meetings, the folks that are, I don't look at Facebook much, but apparently a lot of people use Facebook, and so they have all kinds of derogatory comments. 5 acre lot, break out of 5 acre lots, being that it's been like that forever. You're not seeing as many neighborhoods developed. People just don't do it. People aren't having roads and having their land broke out into 5 acre lots. When we went to 2.5 acre lots, now you're seeing more and more of it. To include, we're having some that are either 2.5 acre lots in and around Basehor come and say, well, if you don't allow me to do 1 acre lots, I'm going to make it 3 houses per acre. Remember that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Sure did.
So that is not making it rural. That is making it city. And
But
the way they're
that's
doing
up by the cities, and our comprehensive plan does have a plan. And the plan is that we keep the development near the cities. So the only place we allow for those high-density zoning parcels is near the cities. And that's by design, because we want to keep the development that's high density up towards the cities, where they have the services, the sewers, and all the services that are had. The problem I have is I want to keep it rural too. I've been on the commission for 5 years. I'd love to see our county be rural and stay the way it is. But we have a Panasonic battery plant that's going to bring maybe 16,000 people into the DeSoto area down south. We have a New Hills Pet Nutrition. So what I'm saying is keep it rural and nice, but you're going to have to allow for the fact that its growth is coming.
Well, one thing I think gets overlooked is prior to 1990, you could split off 1 acre, and we had hundreds of, if not thousands, of 1 acre tracts split out. So that's when we said, hold up, we got to do something. It's going to get completely out of hand. So we went to 10 acres,
10 acres.
40 acres. And yeah, that slowed it down, and it made it more organized. But what we noticed was if you make somebody take a 10-acre tract, usually they mow 1 acre around their house and the back 9 acres. And I can show you hundreds of examples of this with aerial photography and GIS maps. They let the back 9 acres grow up in weeds and hedge trees. So they really only wanted 1 acre, but we made them take 10 acres. So we moved from just letting everybody split 1 acre tracts off with the comprehensive plan, with the new zone. So when everybody's saying, oh, it's ridiculous, you guys chop it down to 2.5 acres, it was worse. It was way worse. So we went from 1 acre to 10 acres, and then we zeroed it in to see what people are really actually wanting, whether they know it or not. Because they don't want 10 acres, they want 2.5. 2.5, basically, you can put septic on 1, but without an engineered system, 2.5 is the minimum that you put septic on. Plus, 2.5 acres is the smallest divisible legal description on the state planning board system. So there's a couple of reasons we went with 2.5. That just makes sense.
So what you're seeing is you're seeing a lot of it come into our meetings. You came to one of our meetings, sat in the back and watched it live with folks really upset.
And none of them owned the property. They were bitching about
Well,
it.
Mr. Doyle did. I knew. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, Mike Doyle does right there. Holy cow. And bigger than daylight, Mr. Doyle came. He was one of them that spoke very clearly.
But for the most part,
Yeah.
They still
Right,
own
most
the
of them
property.
don't either.
And he
But-
moved out there.
Yeah, and so what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of folks upset. Why?
You're seeing
Because
a
it's
handful of
common,
folks
right,
upset.
because-
There's 80-some thousand people in this county. They're not all showing
Right,
up at this
and you
meeting.
can't judge by what comes. I've already said that. You can't judge by what comes in here. And you can't judge by what you read on Facebook and everything else either. But what is coming to reality is what you addressed, Commissioner, and that is We're seeing them now. We're seeing the 2.5 acre neighborhoods start to populate because of growth, because of jobs, because of commercial industry that we want. You know, we're seeing that. We haven't been seeing that, and here we are in a time of inflation and interest rates, and we're seeing growth like crazy with 2.5 acre lots. So these people, whether they come to our meetings or not, or whether they blow up Facebook, they bought and they lived for 30 or 40 years with privacy and ruled as they see farms and cows and horses all around, and now they're seeing that property right across the street being turned into a neighborhood.
Well, it had to go up for sale first, and they should have bought it.
We could say that all day,
Well,
but I
that's
can't
true.
afford all the property next to me either. You know,
Well,
I mean,
then I guess you don't have a say in it.
But that is the reality.
that's the reality. That's where we
Hard
are.
to control.
That's the reality. That's where people are.
And back to the 10 acre minimum,
Yeah.
you know, the same people that are hollering about saving ag land, save the farm, save the ag land, it makes no sense to force somebody to take 5 or 10 acres.
Right.
When it was part of a bean field.
Yeah.
And they're only taking care of 1 acre up front, but the back 9 acres could have been a bean field. But since you made it a 10 acre minimum, now it's no longer 9 acres of beans, it's 9 acres of hedge, trees, and brush.
Right.
So
You're right.
it's contradicting what they're saying. They're saying we got to save farm ground, so make the tracts bigger. That absolutely does not save farm ground.
I think they just
It
kind
works
of.
the opposite.
I think they're fighting to maintain their privacy.
That's exactly
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And the traffic, you know, whether it's a lot of traffic or little traffic, it's traffic. But without hesitation, you're seeing a lot of the same landowners are splitting their land off for their loved ones.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
Right?
We see a
You're
lot.
seeing that,
Yeah.
right?
And we don't want to use government to take that right away.
Right. Right.
I think one thing too you're seeing, and I've only been on county a little over 3 years, so some of the stuff is as I was just coming on is, folks, it's like when I was a mayor and city manager in Lansing. A lot of people lived in a certain area, but growth is going to come. And it's how we decide to make this growth go down the line. If you're living right outside the city, and you don't think that eventually somebody's going to buy that land from somebody, even might be your good neighbor, and set something up to continue growth out there, you're mistaken. If you're probably way out west of the county, might be a little different. But the ones we're seeing are coming up around the cities, and that's what the folks have said they wanted to do. And I'm not here saying we have to build 1,000 houses, but I will tell you that building houses and that growth and what it brings to the economic for the county really helps out quite a bit.
And that's the other misnomer is they say every time you guys allow a new house or a new subdivision to get built, my taxes go up. That is absolutely not true. What they're seeing is their taxes went up a little bit, but they would have went up a lot more if we wouldn't have allowed that house or that subdivision. Because that's the only thing this county can do is residential rooftops. They keep saying, well, you got to get commercial and industrial in here. That's what pays the bill.
Yeah.
Sure it does. But you can't make them come here.
No.
They have to want to come.
You know, I'm pretty
We don't have a
sensitive.
labor pool to fill
Yeah, I
it.
know. Right now, we don't
We don't have a connecting highway for one thing.
That's another thing.
We don't have a rail hub close to the middle of town. And I've got one comment. A lot of the people that come to our meetings live on 2.5 acre tracts already. And I understand that. They moved to the county, they bought 2.5 acres, and their neighbor bought 2.5 acres. And that 100 acres right across the road, they think needs to stay 100 acres. And the sad part is that poor farmer that's barely making it now, and he still sees he can split off some road frontage, and he can buy that new tractor for those 5 2.5 acre lots he sold off, because they're worth a fortune now. And we're going to keep seeing it because of the money. I mean,
'Cause it's
people
a
are
free
going
market.
broke, and the only thing they have to sell is land. So
That is their asset of
And
their
that's
business.
and that's what they have. And if their times are tough, that's one thing that they have to fall back on is they can sell off a portion in order to continue to farm
As a
and
business.
to have their.
And that's the Mario points back to the smaller tract, because if the farmer wants to sell off a building site and you make him sell out 10 acres, he's wasted a lot more ground than he would have to if it was 2.5.
And that is preserving agriculture. I mean, logically speaking, that is. And, you know, one of the things, when things begin to move up toward the county commission, I know that it's really hard to be the planning commission who's really faced with all of the loudness
hearing
and
part.
the noise of,
People in the face,
and
yeah.
people doing this. And so it's easy to kind of feel like, whoa, and then to go ahead and kind of shift into the, okay, we're going to do this. But the Board of County Commissioners, we can't make those decisions based on that public outcry. We have to make, legally, we have to make our decisions based on what is in the best interest of the county as a whole, period. That's our job. That's what we were elected to do. You guys, thank you so much, are here to be our representatives to help us get to those meetings where we begin to make those decisions. And we have to have good people that are on the Planning Commission because we need you. But, you know, sometimes we do change a decision that's been made by the Planning Commission, but don't look at it as being, oh, well, we just waste our time. No, we review, we look at, and a lot of times after the fact, I try really hard not to watch meetings live that are the Planning Commission because I don't want my mind to kind of be clouded by my decisions by what's happened in that meeting. I want to get our information first because we don't have all that information before us in advance. You know, we get you have that packet 30 days from when we get to see it. So it's a lot better for us to be able to study it. And then at some point, you know, like a week or so before, I'll sit down and I'll watch the Planning Commission meeting to see what happened and why maybe some of the decisions that were made. And then I can kind of look at, okay, this is what happened. Well, that's the point. And the other time it will be, wow, that was a lot of pressure that you guys were under. And especially when we're reviewing, like right now when we've been reviewing the comp plan, there's a lot of things in there that are kind of, that people are now pushing. And as it should be, we should look at that and we should make decisions. Does it still apply? But we can't completely redo the comp plan. That's not what that is for.
And that's exactly what I've done lately since we've had this kind of uprising of the 2.5 acre people yelling and screaming. And it appears, I'm pretty sure to you guys, that that's the majority. So do what I do. I reach out to all the old farm families. And I talk to the sheriff's department. I talk to the water districts. And I talk to EMS. And I talk to everybody that has to do with infrastructure. And ask them, do you want us to slow down residential development or help facilitate it? And every single one of them, except for the 2.5 acre folks, say no. Water districts, for instance, that's their member base. That's how they pay their bills. It's how many customers they get. So they said, please, we need more customers. Volunteer fire departments, please add more housing because that's how we get our volunteers. Old farm families, yeah, we don't want to split off 10 acres. We can split off 2.5. So we ask everybody in a big circle and poll those people, and that's where we come up with what we base what we've done with the comp plan. We can't listen to one small group, no matter how loud they are. They're one small group. So that's what we're just, me anyway, is asking you guys.
Mike and I were in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's counties that wish they had our growth problem.
Yeah.
And there are counties that are losing population that still has to provide the same services, the same schools, and they're hurting.
So I did 1 mile segment of road and did nothing but ag on one side and 17 houses on the other side. The ag side generates $10,000 a year to county taxes. The residential side generates $300,000 a year to county taxes. So you cannot tell me that 1 mile segment with housing on one side does not well overpay for the infrastructure and costs that it takes for that 1 mile segment of road. So these people that are saying every time you add a house it makes my taxes go up, not true. Every time a new subdivision gets built, my taxes go up because of that, not true. My taxes are going up to support the new housing and the new construction coming, not true. So just take it with a grain of salt of who's saying what and try to look at the bigger picture. Because one small group yelling about something doesn't make them a majority.
And you know, the plan that we have, this comprehensive plan, and what I've explained to people out in the rural that are for keeping the county rural, it really is designed to encourage development by the cities. It is designed to incentivize the growth pattern to be in the urban part of the county, not out in the rural part. We have had a lot of policy discussions on cross-access easements and other things, and we're trying to disincentivize people putting subdivisions way out in the county. Now they still can do it, but they got to pay for their own roads. There's a lot of things that have been developed as far as policy that's designed to keep the development from going out in the county. But this is a free market. People are moving here. It's going to grow, and we want it to grow. I think the most important thing is grow nice.
Well, my team
Make it
say
nice.
that. Check the permits that come out every month for the county. Counties, for the most part, until most recently, was beating the cities as far as housing permits. People are wanting to move here. And I think that goes back to what Doug was saying about some people in the western part wish they had the problem we're having out here. But also, I want to say something to echo what Vicki said too. Listen, and I've known Marcus a long time, and some of you guys I've got to know, and some I've known for a while. We know your job is not easy. You know, when I was the mayor in Lansing or city manager, I had to talk to the planning commission all the time. I guess having us talk like this is we want you to know, I want you to know, that when you bring something to me, and when I see it, I do my homework. I'll go talk to John or Mark or whoever else, and if I need to talk to Marcus, and I've talked, if I have to talk to somebody else, saying, how did you get to this point? Or why did they vote this way? And then it becomes a lot of clear. I think sometimes communications is one of the issues that we've had. But folks, we got more, and people say, well, we don't want to just keep building houses. They're going to come anyway, so we got to have some kind of control.
Well, I think one of the gentlemen that came and talked about, the 1 acre lot.
Yeah.
You don't give me the 1 acre lot, no problem. I'm going to build 3 on an acre. So it's really your choice. But the other part of this conversation was, do you want me building $600,000 to $800,000 homes, nice homes that I'm reputable for building on 2.5 acre lots and have nice neighborhoods? Or do you want me to crank out 3 houses per acre? Your choice. And what is everybody going to want? Well, we want the nicer homes and the nicer neighborhoods and the quality that you can still have rural. 2.5 acres is still, it doesn't look like a lot, but it is a lot compared to a neighborhood.
The city.
Especially if you don't start mowing it.
Yes. Well, that's all it really is. That's really all it is just a big long bow with 0 turns.
Right,
I wish
that's
I'd
right.
got into all 0 turns and got that market. Because 2.5 acre and 5 acre lots is really just mowing. It's just
That's
mowing.
all it is.
It's
Is
really all it is mowing. But it still kind of gives you that separation. So you still have the rural type feel, right? With separation where you don't have the houses all up on top of you. But I think we have some really good builders out there that are building some really nice neighborhoods that are saying, allow me to build on your 2.5 or 5 acre, whatever it's going to be, or 1 acre, and build some really nice houses in this, which goes right along with your land use map.
And
So we're seeing it. It's coming, and there's a lot of executives coming with.
Right. And I was the only, I understand some of the concerns and things, and so I don't know if you watched the commission meeting last week or not, okay, but back when we were first doing the 2.5, that we kind of did a blanket of a certain portion of the county, and I was the commissioner who said, no, if it's not near an improved road, we really don't want to do that, but the rest of the commissioners were like, well, yeah, we do, because in these areas, and that is where the beauty of us having the majority rules, but there was a thought process that went into it. There's a thought process that goes into the decisions that you make and that we make, and sometimes they just kind of clash. And I don't think it's happened that often that we have done an override and said no, or send it back. Give us an explanation. What were you thinking in this?
Yeah, not like we used to.
So I think that we're coming there and we're getting there, but I think that the comprehensive plan review, this is a good thing, and reviewing it is a good thing, because there was a period of time when I came on the commission, there had been no review of, no look at, or anything else for the county comprehensive plan for more than 10 years. Well, I'm just, I was looking at the last one that was even available, 08, and I was like, wow. So that was one of the first things that the new commission came on board and said, we want to get a new updated comprehensive plan. That was huge for the county.
You don't want to get behind those plans.
That's huge.
You
And
don't
then we
want-
have tried our best to keep and having the planning
That was
commission
on my
review
push
it. Let's
part
look
on
at
our
it.
end to update, but I really wanted sewer on that.
Well,
And we
and-
couldn't afford to do the sewer study.
Well, you bring up a good point, Commissioner. That is, to chime in on this, we have a lot of discussion on water runoff. And it's not so much the 2.5 acre lots, right? The builder doesn't have to worry about controlling that water runoff except for whatever. It's the surrounding communities that are going to be flooded.
We brought that up this morning.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've been in meetings.
No,
but you're right. But we
You're
do-
right.
So as part of this 2.5 acre and this growth and what we're doing,
Yeah, you're
that,
right.
I mean, it comes up every meeting is, well, we're here and we're not saying you can't build 2.5 acres, but right now you've done nothing for my water runoff and you're about to add more to it. So, what are y'all going to pay for my flooding and my water runoff and my house go washing down?
That gets
Because-
addressed in the planning process.
Well, and when we talk about that planning process, my biggest gripe since I've been on the board is when we come in and we split these lots, and they're most generally it's for a future deal. Sometimes they got a development in mind. We don't always get to see their idea right off the get-go. Now, lately, thanks to John, we're seeing a lot more stuff with the lots, how the roads are going to be, where the entrance is, and that kind of helps. That, for me,
Yeah.
that gives me a visual.
Yeah. That's good.
Now, just like that.
Yes, I can visualize how that development's going to grow
But
and affect the
But it still
neighborhoods.
doesn't get to the water runoff.
Right, but
And that's what we talked about this morning.
But the planning
Water
process
runoff
does,
plan.
when you approve the final plat. That's where your drainage calculations and everything are done.
John, let me ask you something. I know the cities, in Lansing, we had zero policy of any plus runoff once you develop. What's the counties?
The target is a zero net increase. So in
Okay.
other words, you don't have, and you've heard me say this before, you don't have to address existing runoff in the rest of the subdivision. You have to address the parcel that you
Right.
are subdividing.
Right.
So at the end of the day, the goal there is to not increase the amount of runoff that exists in pre-developed condition. So the way to answer that is, from a preliminary side, you have a development plan process that we talked about this morning, and I talked about the plan commission level, that generally describes the water runoff areas and how they're going to be addressed. As Commissioner Smith said earlier, yes, in the planning process, you do get the hydrology component behind that that backs up what that initial design is. So yes, we are addressing that through the development plan
Yeah,
process.
this come up a few times.
Oh yeah, I just bring that up as
Sure.
part
Yeah.
of we get
Yeah, it is.
that
Yeah.
as well.
I understand.
And then we do that same explanation every once a week,
But
every
if it
Wednesday night.
remains all farm ground, it's not going to get addressed. So it will get addressed in the planning process.
So if I could address the land use map. When the land use map was brought to us, and below 2440, the south part of the county, what the proposal had created was a land use map that had islands throughout, with no rational basis. There was like, okay, we got an island of 5. This land use portion is going to be 5 acres, and this right next to it is 2.5. So the reason we decided that there was no rational basis for having islands in that area, so we just made it all the 2.5 because there was no. I mean, what kind of argument can you make that we got like 5 acres over here, or probably 100 acres over here that's not part of the 2.5? Because primarily on all the hard surface roads and all the roads, it was going to be 2.5. But had we adopted what the original proposal was, we would have had islands of 5 acre throughout. So that's how that came about.
We still have a lot of land out there, a lot of landowners, to include myself, right? We still have a lot of land, a lot of landowners out there that we may be in the 2.5 acre map, but we're never going to sell.
Right,
Yeah.
and
We're
you
not,
don't
I'm
have
still
to.
farming. So that's a lot of goodness. We're only addressing those folks that have come so far, which is almost every month. We have it's on the and a lot of them, when they really look into what it really costs to develop and how it costs to develop, they're getting it drawn out and whatever, but they may never move towards that direction. But
Right.
what it is it lays, and it's like
planning.
slap the table, it's done
Yep.
for their second and third generation behind.
Exactly.
And we see a lot of that, and we know that. We can tell that, we know that, and then we have some that are right away ready to build. So we see those too.
And we haven't even talked about what they call economic obsolescence, where we're regulating the lowering of people's value of the property. So we haven't even touched on that. Like, you got to be careful that you're not passing regulations that drop people's value of their property. But that's a whole other.
And the land use, a land use map is not supposed to be a rubber stamp.
Right.
It's supposed to be it's your board's discretion, and you go by those golden rules. Whether it is discretionary.
And one last thing, because it's 5:30.
Oh, it is.
I just want to touch on it. So the reason that we're going through all these meetings on the changes to 2.5 down to 2.5 acres is because their zoning map does not match the comprehensive plan. So when you say rubber stamp, it is kind of that way because we can't change our zoning map to match the comprehensive plan without going through a whole lot of public hearings on every single parcel. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast. Now that we have a comprehensive plan that everybody agrees is the way it should be, our zoning map, not so much. But legally, we have to go through this process and run all these changes that are not matching the zoning map through the process that we're running through. And it's just because we can't change the zoning map.
Yep.
So really,
We've
our
had that
comprehensive
discussion.
plan is our zoning.
Yeah.
So does anybody have anything else?
They don't
before we
match.
want to talk about?
That was
So
fast.
now they're talking.
Well, I think one of our real biggest differences with our committees has been special use permits. We don't address them. We take them one at a time. And how the hell do you tell this guy, yes, you can have one, no, you can't have? And then we have no regulations and enforcement.
Well, that's what we're going this morning
You
too.
could drive through this county and you could come up to a beautiful $500,000 or $750,000 home, a mile down the road. You got an old rundown shack that's got 16 cars in his driveway. It's been there for years. And we do nothing about it.
Because,
But
because the county doesn't have home rule authority like cities do. If those were in the city, they could do something
Well,
about it.
that's what a long-range plan can address. And we're not addressing it. And I think that's really important.
But
Well, I
I
think
think in
this-
special use, I think that's been, I know that's been one of my pet peeves, not having uniform. But I think that's one of the things that today, when we met, we
Yeah.
began and you
We were
guys
talking
are
about
going to be
it.
looking at and making those decisions on a tiered process to make those decisions in a very uniform and consistent manner. We can't do anything about what happened in the past. A lot of those things, those are grandfathered, but we can look at what we're doing moving on into the future.
We had a long
Yeah.
discussion on just what exactly you're talking about. In fact, the county commissioners were not agreeing on some things, so we were going back and forth to see what the best way is. So we were discussing that this morning for quite a while.
Good.
Good.
It seems like this went really fast. It was a good discussion.
Yeah.
But do you guys understand? We really do respect. I'm personally, and I know the rest of the community. We really, really, truly respect what you do and how difficult it is, and the fact that you take your time and your energy and
Come and
to
get
do
yelled
this
at.
as a service. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, if anybody can appreciate what you guys go through with us,
Yeah. We've had some dandies.
we really appreciate you guys stepping up and doing what you do.
Thank you.
All right.
Does that mean we're getting a pay raise?
Yeah.
10 times.
Yeah, we'll double it. We can double it right out.
Are we going to do this?